We're gonna hit it a few times. That's not gonna work. Then we're gonna use a pickle fork. See? It didn't work. All right, so lights are done. Now we need to move on to solving the problem of mini truck is too tall. Most people with their pickups want to go higher, we want to go lower. If you're not familiar with the mini trucking scene, I don't blame you. It kind of ended like 25 or 30 years ago. We idiots who refuse to let go of it are few and far between, but still around. The principles of the matter are go low. Now, we're not going to go as low as a lot of people back in the day would, where they were dragging the frame on the ground, but we are going to take a few more inches out of the ride height of the truck. We're going to do it really super cheap and fairly sketch, which I don't really recommend doing, but we're doing it anyway because I've spent way too much money on this truck as it is, and we're just going to deal with it that way because cheap is good at this point. We're going to use a set of lowering blocks for the rear, which are about twice as tall as the ones that are currently on it. Now, those of you who are familiar with lifting trucks, it's the same thing as lift blocks. We're just putting it on the bottom of the axle instead of on the top. Once we've got that set, we will lower the front to match by doing the age-old bad idea of just cutting the springs. We're probably only going to take off roughly one coil. This should give us about 2 inches of drop. If we need another inch, we can take another half a coil off. That's about as low as we're going to get for this particular trip. You get much lower, and I'd have to get into creating different relief spring packs, which I really should be doing anyway, but I'm not going to because I'm a wise man. And because you don't want your leaf spring ending up upside down. They're supposed to look like this. This is bad. Mine are probably going to be straight by the time we're done with this, and it's going to ride like crap. So let me show you the kit that we ordered. I needed something in a hurry, and there's not a whole lot of manufacturers for the aftermarket scene of these old trucks anymore. Luckily, Beltec is still around and making about the best stuff that anybody is for this platform. So let me show you the kit that I ordered. We called up Speedway, and they got it to us in just a couple of days, which I really appreciate given our timeline. Can I begin now? So for anyone who has not ever dealt with a lift block or a lowering block, I thought I might introduce the kit. Ordered it, like I said before, ordered it from Beltec. This part number happens to be 6203, a 4-inch extruded block with 2-degree angle kit. This is the block itself. As it says, it has 2 degrees of angle. So as you can see, it's not flat on the bottom. It is actually 4 inches on this side and a little bit more on this side. This is so that it can position properly in regard to the axle tube. And if I'm wrong, and someone out there knows more than me, which you probably do because I'm an idiot, put it down in the comments so that I can not lie to people in the future. Appreciate that. This particular kit comes with both the lift blocks and the U-bolts, which whenever you're doing a lift or a lower, you will have to change probably which U-bolts you have. It's generally accepted rule is not to reuse them, though a lot of times you can because it's really strong steel and they're not like one-shot use. But good practice is to make sure that you've got good fresh steel, because if this comes loose, the whole rear end comes out from underneath the vehicle, and well, I'm sure you probably watch crash videos because some of them are entertaining. If you don't, then you're probably more mentally stable than the rest of us, and good job. This one comes with new ones and new nuts. So big giant U-bolts which fit on either side of the axle. They will bind this to the axle tube, and good size 3/4 nylock nuts to hold it all together. As I've said before, a lot of the times you don't need fancy tools. You can do this whole dadgum installation with pretty much just this 3/4 inch box end wrench, which is in most kit or a lot of kits, or you can just pick up just this single wrench for a few dollars. Not terribly expensive. I don't know for sure yet, but I would suspect that we've got enough room to use a ratcheting end wrench, which is just a couple of dollars more. However, there is a tool that should make this job fairly dadgum easy, and I'm lucky enough to have a friend of mine that's willing to lend this to me because I don't own one, because for the longest time I didn't know it existed, and it only comes up useful like once every few years, and that's a hard pill to swallow, to buy a tool regardless of how nice it is that you're very rarely going to use. Most people don't have the luxury of spending money like that, but having friends is awesome. So I would like to introduce you to this particular tool, which is made by Armstrong. It's what they call the Eliminator Ratchet Set. It is a ratcheting through hole ratchet. It's similar to the ratcheting end wrench, but it's a self-contained unit. You take your chosen size, and just the teeth are on the socket, so to speak, and just insert it. And now it doesn't matter how long what you're working on is. It will go all the way through, though that size is too small for this. We're going to back up. I'm going to pick the right size. And now it doesn't matter how deep. It'll go all the way, because a lot of times a deep well isn't going to be deep enough. And this same job, though, as I said before, can be solved with a ratcheting end wrench. Problem with this is, this ratcheting end wrench is not reversible, which can lead you getting into a bit of trouble. If you run this up and the whole shooting match binds up, now you don't get your wrench back, which this is reversible. It's just it's like a regular ratchet. So, but this should make the job a whole lot faster and easier. But I have run my mouth entirely too much, so let's get started on this. What we're going to do is, as our Australian friends like to say, first step, jack up the truck. Put the body on jack stands. Then we will take the weight off of the rear axle, unhook the old U-bolts and blocks, pull them out, drop the new ones in, but you'll see. Here we go. Oh. Oh. Time to increase leverage. Oh. Oh. Oh man, I'm an idiot. God bless my... Ow! See that? It's tightening. That's one way to do it. Oh, I think it's going to end up breaking. When they break like that, don't be scared of it. They're just old and dirty and rusted in place. It's honestly not a terrible thing that it's happening because we're replacing them anyway. So don't worry about it. Just keep on doing. However, make sure that you keep your eyes and face covered. I don't want to be responsible for somebody losing an eye because they didn't take health and safety important. However, since this one doesn't want to break, it's a good opportunity to showcase this tool, which, you know, the leverage amount between 3-foot breaker bar and ratchet handle is significant. Normally I'd put a wrench on the end of this and just bow up on it, but this one's not mine, and it's not good to mistreat other people's tools. And when did I break of yours? I broke one of your wrenches? I might have. I don't remember. Nope. These weren't put on straight. I don't know if you can see that. This right here. See? It ate all the threads all the way off. I can't believe that nut decided to actually, I was able to force it to come off. That is why you start nuts by hand and then run them up with a tool. Don't do this crap that a lot of tire shops, cheap, low rent tire shops do, and put the nut on with the impact and then just ugga-dugga it until it's tight. That right there is how you end up ruining stuff. Yes. On very rare occasions, braking is good. You realize that the shock was, should have paid attention to that. Lift the old U-bolts off. All right, grab our new block, just show you the difference between the two. That's 100% below the camera. That might be in frame. Old versus new. Just a little bit different. Now we need to lift on the rear end. This is where having friends is helpful. Pick the rear end up. There we go. Clean the rocks out from underneath where you're setting the new part. That needs to be cleaned off better than that. I need to bring the rear end down. There is a peg on top of the block that the hole in the perch needs to come down on top of. Very slowly, please. It can be a little less slowly than that. There we go. See, these are going to go in like this and go down into the base plate. I'm going to go ahead and hang them in place. Ready for 1/8 of a turn at a time. Some progress is better than no progress. What's the torque spec on this?
80.
Continue, please. One more. Yeah, give me half of one. There we go. There. Okay. That's one side done. We'll get the other side done the exact same way, though maybe hopefully a little more efficient. And then we can move on to setting the truck back on the ground and measuring the new ride height. All right, so I've taken the torsion rod the sway bar end link off so that we can get in here and work a little bit better. As you can see, I've straightened out the end of the cotter pin. Now I have to drive it that way, which, given the orientation of this, is rather inconvenient. Because I don't think this is going to turn at all. No, we can't turn it at all, so we just have to try to get in here this way and drive it out that way. And maybe we can get this thing apart. Can I get some advice?
Just grab it here and like just rotate it just to get it broke loose in the hole. Usually getting them, if they're bent a little bit, you can usually still get them to back out of the hole if you can get them to spin. But you're not going to be able to get it to spin much because the head's going to be catching it. Just put some pressure on it. Just gonna have to kind of mess with the ends of it and get them back square. Or break them off, cut them off, something.
The cotter pin is out after much frustration. I have thrown it, so I cannot show you. I will show you another one when I go to put it back together. Next, we take big wrench, break this loose, and take the lower ball joint apart. Alright, now I know this is supposed to be tight and all, but dang. When in doubt, more leverage. Oh, got it. All right. Castle nut has been removed. Now, there is nothing holding all of this together except for the mechanical friction grip of the taper of the ball joint onto the seat. So we're going to hit it a few times. That's not going to work. Then we're going to use a pickle fork. I'm going to get out of the way. See, it didn't work. At some point, this is going to jump. All right, bigger hammer. Ta-da! So I wanted to show y'all these side by side so you could see exactly what we're doing and how much we're doing and how we're doing it. Coil springs are not generally linear. They are, generally speaking, progressive. So you can't just take one coil off and let's say it's, like in this case, generally speaking, 2 inches of drop. Go, okay, well, I'll just take 2 coils off to get 4 inches. It doesn't work like that. Because they are progressive springs, 1 coil gets you 2 inches of drop. 1.5 gets you 3. In this case, we've gone for 1 1/4 coils. So, as you can see, there's a fairly significant difference between the heights of these 2 coils now. If we take the cutoff piece and set it up on here, they become more or less, if I could manage to hold it right, more or less the same again. Which, I can't hold it right because I'm absurd and useless. See, there we go. They're more or less the same again. So this is how much we're going to cut off of this one. Also, point of note, there's actually one more piece that I don't know where it is anymore. That's why it's not actually looking the same, because there's an intermediary piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our cutoff wheel and I'm going to cut this right about here. I'm going to get some safety glasses first because I happen to enjoy being able to see. And then I will make a secondary cut somewhere down in here, more or less. Oh, let's see, let's get these oriented the same. I'm glad that I took a look at this, and I'm glad that we're taking a moment to address these, because there's a couple of very important rules that you need to follow when you're going to cut a spring. A great many applications like GM pickups, one end will have a curlicue pigtail that comes together very small in the middle. You cannot cut that off. If you do, you've ruined the spring and it won't ever sit correctly in its mounts. Some of them have a flat on the bottom, as you can see here. This is where it sits into its seat in the top of the spring purchase or hole. It's a big upside down cup, and it has a flat bed in the top of it that sets this in place. And the bottom sits into a little cup in the lower control arm. So that you just orient to that little cup and then lift it up and it sets in place. You can't cut this part off either, or else it won't ever sit right and it'll end up rocking and not mounting appropriately. And that's dangerous. You can only cut them off on an end that has this taper that's kind of curled into infinity, where it just maintains the coil and stops. That's the part that you can cut off, nothing else. Anything else and you've ruined your whole shooting match. But getting back to what we were saying before, I'm going to line these up on the table to where the bases are approximately the same, just for demonstration purposes. And I realize now that this isn't going to work at all because they're, backwards. And and they're not exactly the same. We're going to do this the normal way. I'm just going to cut it off here, and then once that's off, I'll go another quarter of a coil, and then I'll cut that off, and we should be right about correct. And now our coils are pretty bad close. It will compress a little bit as it sits with some weight on it, and that's fine. We just need them to be close. So let's get it put back together, shall we, and see how the truck looks like. For the record, this is just to test the height. That's the reason why everything isn't torqued to spec or the shock's not in it. I'm not finishing hooking up the anti-sway bar. I just want to get the wheel on it so that we can sit it on the ground and make sure that the right height is somewhere in the neighborhood of correct. Alright, so the truck's back on the ground now. Now what we need to do to make sure that we know where it's actually going to sit is we just need to shake it. We're going to bounce up and down on the front of the truck a little bit. You can do this by driving it a little bit if you've got everything completely put back together. I wouldn't drive this truck right now because I don't have the sway bar hooked up, and I don't have more than a pair of lugs on either front tire, which is enough to hold the weight of the truck, but that would not be safe to drive on. So we're just gonna bounce, and hopefully the hood won't hit me in the head. Now, as you notice, I've got to stop it because we don't have struts or shocks, so it's nothing but spring. Now, they will not change the ride height, but they do, dampen, which is their whole purpose in life. But now we should have more or less the ride height that the truck is going to sit at, and we can determine whether or not we need to cut more spring. It's pretty level. Pretty close anyway. And it's certainly lower, which is realistically what we were going for. As I said to begin with, this is the wrong thing, the right way. And so we've pretty well achieved the goal. Besides, we're going to LemonsRally. It's just got to be close. It's not like this is anything, expensive or fancy. So I'm going to call it good. I think I'm fairly pleased with it. This thing is going to ride like crap. I may need to see a chiropractor by the time we get back from our trip. But that is a problem for future me and distinctly not a problem for current me. So, I think that's going to call it good for tonight. I still have to button everything up, get everything torqued to spec, get the anti-sway bar hooked up and configured properly. That won't take me long, and you saw me take it out. I showed you how it goes. I'm not going to bore you with that process. However, we do have a fair number of things to get done still. We need to get the carpet in, get the seats in, get the CB installed and mounted, get the stereo installed and mounted. We've got to get our tires on, we've got to get an alignment done. We've got a blinker module to install. We've got to get our livery put on. I think y'all are going to really like that. Well, it's more an addition to the existing livery, but I digress. We've got some new door handles, interior door handles I should specify, to put in. Reinforce some floor insulation, attach the exhaust, and then maybe we'll be ready. I just want to take a moment to say thank you for watching the video, for hanging out, spending time in the shop with me. You could be doing a million other things with your time, but you chose to spend it with me, and I appreciate that. I really do. So for tonight, I say thank you. Please do the YouTube things with the buttons, and we'll see you next time. Be kind, and if you get a chance, go wrench with your friends. There's nothing much better. Take care.